guys, Mark Crossfield here, more Ping Tech Talks with the Ping Boffins at Ping HQ in Phoenix on their Enzo system, looking at club and delivery data in 3D space. Talking a little bit about challenging maybe how perception can affect club fitting and how golfers deliver the club when the objective is different also in the shot. I think there's some interesting points in this one as I put their Enzo system through my mental test, trying to work out exactly what I can learn from it. So what happens if I try? If I try and hit one higher?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So try and.
Yeah.
I think I'll change my angle of attack. But how am I changing the loft?
So you were up at about 2 degrees.
Yeah, I'm between 2 and 4. 2 is kind of standard.
Is it like 2.3?
Like 2.5 on both of them.
Yeah, and what was my dynamic loft? About 16, 18?
Face center it was 14 and a half.
And then strike was around 17?
15 for the second.
You're a little higher second time around.
Yeah.
So
without low launching tool shaft.
Well, no, but he's one of those guys. So
That's it. I mean, you're basically
there's a
adjusting your
study.
hands.
One of the guys we guy named Sasha McKenzie.
Yeah.
He did a nice study where he took some I-25 drivers and did a nice sample, and he had RS and X flex, and he did some good averaging, kind of looking statistically what happens. But then he looked at individuals, and you have one individual who kind of behaved like you would expect. The softer shafts were delivered with more lead.
Yeah.
They ended up being delivered with more loft.
Yeah.
The softer shafts always were delivered with more lead, but some guys would actually move their hands way farther forward with the softer shaft, where the stiffer shaft were back here. So we're getting opposite effects.
Yeah.
Where even though it was in more lead, they moved their hands farther forward, and they're actually getting lower launch out of the regular flex.
They're changing their swing
Yeah, but that's what I'm going
to accommodate the shaft.
Because for me, which is what I'm kind of like, if I'm going to hit one higher, I don't care what club you put in my hand, I'm going to try and find my launch.
Right.
I'm going to try and find my target or my shot.
Right.
Where I guess other golfers might not have that
Skill.
or not even skill. They might not even be thinking about it in that way. They are just swinging.
It's not the way they respond.
Exactly. Some people are taught to hit position after position, so they don't care about what they put in their hand. They're going to try and hit those kind of taught positions. Where I am all about trying to deliver the club.
Yeah.
So you put the club in my hand, and I feel like it's going to go high. Well, I'm going to make it not go high. If the objective is to hit the same shot.
Right.
So I think
So you almost have to study what their objective is first, you know what I mean?
And
Yeah.
golf is subconscious. It's not like you can.
Yeah.
You can
Well, you see
articulate
that
it. I think
in
a lot of
fittings.
golfers, you can't just ask them, "Are you doing that?" It's
Yeah.
more, it's observational. I mean, we see it with putters. So a simple
Yeah.
example: Langle on a putter. So we'll do an iping session. We'll say, "Okay, your putter's 3 degrees up in the air." We could give everyone a 3 degree flatter putter.
Yeah.
Half of them, it would be just fine. They'd putt the same, and the other half just drop their hands.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, and they don't know they're doing it. Even with tour players, we didn't necessarily, it wasn't something they articulated.
Yeah.
It's just we see it.
Because you see it in fittings, don't you? I mean, I remember when I did lots of fittings, you would see people have an agenda of what club they want going in, and you would see them starting to try and make that one come out. You know, they want that stiff shaft, so they're just going to constantly look at the good data on the stiff shaft, or like, you know, try and make that one work for them.
maybe because not everyone's like you. Some of the tests will run in
It's
here.
lucky everyone's not like me.
That's a good point. But some of the tests we can do in here, we'll turn the screen off and just hit blank.
Yeah.
Right? And so as a golfer, sometimes for me, it puts me in a frustrating position, but we design our experiment so that we don't see the result.
Yeah.
We can focus on the feel. And someone like you can still feel what's going on.
Yeah, I don't
manipulate.
need the screen. I reckon you could turn the screen off and I could guess quite
Yeah.
close.
So.
But
But the room here gives us the ability to do it either way.
absolutely.
You know.
So I'll try and hit this one higher. So I need to present more loft, but still hit target. Caught that not as high on the face,
Higher.
but I
Full
definitely,
speed out of that one.
yeah, well, I felt like I was hitting up more. Almost feel like I'm
It's the third
jumping
swing.
up a bit more.
It's warming up.
He's warming up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I present more loft?
see.
So I go with tack.
So I changed that by
increased by
2.
like 2 degrees.
That doesn't
2 to
have
3
to change
degrees.
the dynamic loft, but probably will.
So actually, swing
But
speed's
elevation
the
and
same,
face center, you're about 2 degrees,
2 degrees
more,
more,
in
yeah.
loft.
but your impact location was lower, so instead of being a third of the
Yeah, so that would have been, if I'd have got the same impact, that would have been,
Even
basically
higher,
center of the
yeah,
face.
yeah.
I would have teed, I mean, I would have teed it up high. If I do that on the course, I would tee that up a
Yeah.
little higher to allow for that extra 2 up I'm coming at it. And I got more in to out, and that's a really interesting one, I think. This is so good. So obviously I get in my head, I also kind of get it to articulate it a bit as well. I get that if I'm hitting up more,
You need to get more in.
well, I feel like I'm going to go more left, so I naturally start going more out that way.
I do the
Yeah.
same thing.
Because I'm getting it later on that arc, so it's starting to come in, so I don't pull it, which is even though I did then a little bit. I just start naturally, if you think of that hula hoop, I'm just naturally shifting it to the you know, to the agenda, to what we want the shot to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
It's
It's
deep
so
playing,
good.
Yeah.
Hmm?
The D playing with golf
Yeah,
teachers.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Did the shaft react any different then, with me trying to hit it that way?
So, yeah, I mean, handle speed is basically the same there. Max shaft deflection, I think before was 2.3. So 7 and 1/7. Where this one was 2.4. So a little bit more lead and a little bit less droop.
So a little bit more
Some-
lead.
Yeah,
More
the shaft is bent a little bit more
more
forward
lofty, yeah.
and a little less.
Why is it bent more forward? As in, have I done that?
I would guess if you're catching it a little later in the swing, it's got a little more time to bend forward.
Yeah.
React.
Does it? So you say you're catching it a little bit more later in the swing. Would that show up in a time of impact, as in from start to finish?
It could,
It
to be
could.
honest.
But the
it's-
speeds would have to be identical for
Right.
that, wouldn't they?
I'd have to. It's such a small
Yeah.
difference from what we're seeing here. If we had you take, 10 swings one way and 10 swings another, we might be able to kind of.
Start point.
I mean, that would be to me a little bit in the fuzz of the data.
It might-
But
Yeah.
it's a pretty small difference.
Yeah.
If it was a couple inches or something, then we're like,
Yeah.
all right, there's really something there. If we had you hit a couple with the other one, you might see that sort of variation just
Yeah.
naturally from
So
swing to
if
swing.
I wanted to get it higher, so I mean, you would want the shaft in more lead, wouldn't you? Is that correct?
It's helping you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the bigger thing is you hitting up on it.
So I wonder what happens then. Would you see if I tried to hit it higher with that shaft? Would the numbers? Would it go into more? Like I would feel with a less rigid shaft that I would be able to hit it higher. That I feel like I would be able to get the club into more going forwards.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
I think your proprioception would tell you that,
Yeah.
right? By how the shaft responds to
Yeah,
it when
yeah.
you start moving it down.
Yeah.
I think practically the biggest thing would be torsionally softer with this one. So you could get the face delivered, a bit more open. You'll respond to it as
Yeah.
the player.
Yeah.
And
So what? Okay.
flexurally softer on
Yeah.
top of that.
So what was the face angle on that one at impact?
A little.
So I was a little bit more into out.
Yes, and 2 degrees.
So I was nearly 1 degree closed to path. So my face was more closed to path on that one. Again, that could be hitting it later, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Catching it later. So
Mhm.
it's the toes overtaking slightly.
Which we see, I mean, so with that same logic there, the shaft twist is like 0.3 degrees open versus the 1.1 we were before. So again, it's less open, if you will. It's kind of
So it's
closing
less
a little
twisted
bit more.
that way.
Twisted about.
It's degree less
about
twist. Yeah.
This way.
Correct. It's actually starting to kind of
Yeah.
come back more towards center.
So is it or I have made it? Does that make sense? So the way you say that sounds more like it's the shaft, is this, but I've done that, haven't I?
I think the answer is yes and yes.
Yeah.
And yes.
Okay. That's good. That's interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
When do we get our one?
Yeah, I know. How much are these?
Yes.
We'll send you a bill.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more videos. Find me on Instagram at Crossfield Mark, also on Twitter at 4golfonline. Find me on Facebook, Mark Crossfield. Thanks for watching. Post comments as always, and see you soon.